Hey guys, welcome back to Brian's Mysteries and Adventures on Trail, and today we are going to be talking about mysteries of Yosemite National Park, which is in California, sort of in the northern Sierra. And not only just, we're going to discuss things about the park itself, we're going to talk about a few different recent and other disappearances that have happened and my thoughts on those. Yosemite is definitely a very unique park in the sense that it has these huge rock faces, granite, that are literally double the size of the Empire State Building. And it's got like this 8-mile long valley in the center. And that's the part that everyone loves to go and see because it's sort of a natural wonder. And there are some myths and rumors about different things, but the one about the lava waterfall, about how the sunlight hits the Horseshoe Falls just right at a certain point of year, that's actually true, and it's usually right around the end of February, and the way the sunlight hits it just right at that time of year, it makes the water coming over the falls look like lava, which is pretty sweet, as you can see in this picture that was taken in 2019. So it's definitely quite a sight to see. Yosemite National Park is absolutely huge. I mean, it covers, I think, over roughly 800,000 acres, and the John Muir Trail cuts through it, the PCT goes through it. There's a road called Route 20 that cuts all the way through it over to 395, so you can actually drive through the entire park, but that road's closed during the winter time, and I actually have driven it. It's windy, there's lots of tunnels, and there's lots of vista points. There's places you can pull off and sightsee. Literally, the day that I drove through Yosemite, it was so crowded. I drove through the entire park, not all at once. I stopped in a few of the ranger places, but there was no places to park, even on the vista centers. I mean, vista turnout places, literally nowhere to park. It was insane. So yeah, like I said, in the middle, there's just this huge valley that's absolutely beautiful. It's considered a national wonder. And then of course you have Half Dome, which is very popular, and some people actually like to go and hike that. The first case I want to talk about is Sandra Johnsen Hughes. And this is actually a very recent case. She went missing last year. She is from Hawaii. Sandra had moved from Hawaii to California in June of 2020, and she was on a solo camping trip, in part to escape the possibility of COVID. This was one of the reasons, to sort of self-isolate. Sandra was no stranger to the outdoors. She had actually trained to be a park ranger in college and was very experienced. The last time she contacted relatives was on June 26, 2020. She is 5'3", about 150 pounds, with brown eyes and shoulder-length brown hair that has been dyed blue, I guess, in some areas. July 4th of 2020 was when she was officially reported missing. One of her nieces, Ashley, wrote in a Facebook post that the campsite found in the Johnsen meadow areas, and we'll get into that, where her belongings were all disheveled. Things were thrown all about. It was just not in character of her. They said that she was very fastidious, and that really would not be, like a piece of litter on the ground would have bothered her. On July 5th of 2020, the authorities located Hughes' silver Saab in Chiquito Creek to the north of the campsite. They said it appeared to have crashed into a tree at a speed of less than 20 miles an hour. The airbags hadn't deployed, and then it rolled down into a ravine. Officers and volunteers from more than a half dozen other sheriff's departments, together with a dog team and the California Highway Patrol, all went out to look for her, and then they eventually found her campsite, which was in tatters. It was just a mess. There was stuff thrown about all over the place. The campsite was found in the Johnsen Meadows area between Bearsore and Minaret Roads. Hikers reported seeing Sandra on July 4th and said that she was barefoot and had a bruise on her face. They offered to help her, but she declined any medical assistance and just kind of wandered off. The last sighting of Sandra was on Sunday, August 9th. Two hunters saw a woman leaning against a tree along Road 5S01 near Bearsore Road. She did not wave them down. She did not attempt to contact them or seem like she was in distress. Upon returning, they recognized her from a missing poster and, of course, contacted the authorities. They said that she looked visibly thinner than her last known photos. Road 5S01 and Bearsore Road are in the area of Chiquito Creek near the Portuguese Overlook. And unfortunately, that was the last sighting. To this day, she remains missing. Unfortunately, usually the more time that passes, the less chances of a positive outcome, but the good news is that the last she was reported seen and she didn't ask for help, so it could be that she's in a hospital somewhere, or who knows. You just have to hope for the best, and just sending my thoughts and prayers out to Sandra's family and hoping you can find her soon. I will leave information in the description with the authorities to contact if you have any information regarding this case. But if you do have any information, you can contact the Madera County Sheriff's Department at 559-658-2555. Yosemite has a fairly high rate of deaths, roughly 12 a year, and most of the incidents happen between the months of May and September. And I could only find some older data for the decade between 2001 and 2011, but the blue dots represent like more incidences. But as you can see, there's quite a lot of incidences that happen in Yosemite. And I know that people that are familiar with Missing 411 already know about this, but just kind of trying to figure out why this might be happening. And I think a lot of it has to do with the park itself, as far as the terrain. Granite, when it gets wet, it's like ice. And then you have people doing things like this, which are absolutely crazy. I mean, when there's a big gust of wind, it does get windy in Yosemite. Just in last month, I believe it was January of 2021, they had 15 of their giant sequoias come down. And when these trees come down, it is just catastrophic when they land on something. I was actually in Sequoia National Park when one of these trees came down, and it's just earth-shattering. The noise that it makes and the damage that it causes around them. And just in this last storm, they had 15 of them come down in Yosemite, and it forced the park to shut down. It caused God only knows how much money and damage. And they also have rock slides when pieces of granite break off and just tumble down the side of the cliffs and roll into what's ever in their path. And unfortunately, this usually leads to at least one death, maybe more. One of the most catastrophic was in July 10th of 1996, when just a huge amount of rocks came tumbling off the side of the cliff, and it caused one fatality, which is actually, despite how tragic that death obviously was, it could have been a lot worse. I think because this rock slide happened later in the evening when more people weren't in the park, but July is a very busy month for the park. So yeah, that definitely could have been a lot worse. And the other thing is the rivers and waterfalls. There's obviously beautiful waterfalls, and the Misty Fall Trail often will get wet. People fall into the water, and then they're washed over, the biggest waterfalls in the world. So, if you are going to be visiting the park, be very alert. And the problem is, when people are in parks and they're having a good time, they let their guard down. And you might be thinking, you're in this park, you're having a good time, and you just might not be paying as much attention or being as careful. And unfortunately, this is what leads to accidents sometimes, and especially around the water and the waterfalls. I know a lot of people, they'll jump into these rivers, and before they know it, there's nothing that anybody can do. And there's been reports of people literally seeing people just helplessly go over the falls, and oftentimes their bodies are never even found. And again, I just want to stop right here and say that I'm not trying to fearmonger or scare anybody or tell anybody not to go to this park. Obviously, it's a beautiful park and a great place to visit. It's got some of the most breathtaking waterfalls and the valley. My point in this is just a discussion to discuss why and how some of these things are possibly occurring, and why there's, in my opinion, more accidents and disappearances in this particular park. And then we have good old Half Dome, right? Everybody knows Half Dome, and everybody, for whatever reason, is obsessed with getting to the top of this. Now, let me just say for the record, if you have any fear of heights or aren't coordinated. Just don't even bother trying this. And you know, Yosemite actually tried to make this safer by implementing a permit system, which of course has backfired because now they limit the amount of people, so people try and sneak on and double in. This is a system of wires. You have to wear gloves. I mean, it is basically a straight incline, and people have actually thought that, oh hey, it's raining today, there's not a line, I'm going to sneak in, which obviously the park doesn't allow, and then they slide off the face of a cliff. I mean, it is literally basically like a vertical incline. And if you don't believe me, just look at these pictures, or just go to Google Earth and look it up yourself. It is crazy. I mean, hey, it's a lot of fun for people that like that kind of thing. I'm only bringing it up because, unfortunately, you know, a lot of people go into these things thinking like, oh yeah, I can do this just because I saw it in a magazine or in a movie. They don't realize what they're actually up against. Half Dome is obviously a beautiful thing, and so is this whole park, but it requires respect and knowledge, and that you know what your limitations are and what you can handle. People that don't research it, they don't really actually know what it is. They think, oh, it's just sort of a rocky trail or something, and then they get up there, and I mean, sometimes people, you know, might feel peer pressured by their friends. Just never do anything just because of pressure. If you don't feel comfortable with something, just don't do it. I have actually talked to several people who said that they had near fatal accidents because they were out hiking, they got into a situation, two of which were in Yosemite, where their friends wanted to do this Half Dome, and I believe like that this was before the permit system. I think the permit system now works on a lottery system. In any event, John got up there and he was like, oh, there's no way in hell I can do this, but his friends were kind of teasing him, and then obviously they just let it go. But just, you know, if they are your true friends, they're not going to like mock you for not doing something. You know your limitations and do what you feel comfortable. And obviously for people that are up to the challenge and like this kind of thing and know what they're doing and understand it, hey, that's great. And I think it could be a great adventure and something that would be very satisfying to achieve, and that's fine. This park is absolutely beautiful. It's loaded with tons of trails. There's a lot of safe trails, there's different hiking level trails, so you know, if you do go to this park, just pick a trail that you feel comfortable with. And obviously if it's wet or raining, just be extra careful, because water on granite equals not a fun day. Now we are going to talk briefly about some of the legends of Yosemite's National Park, and some of these are more known than others, and I'll leave you to decide what you think about some of these. Yosemite National Park was established in 1890 and draws roughly 4 million visitors a year, and some of these stories date all the way back to that time or before that time. These are stories that encounter everything from Bigfoot run-ins to peculiar creatures known as night crawlers, obviously a large number of disappearances and sightings of UFOs. The first one I want to talk about is the Grouse Lake Howling. Now, the first documented report of this phenomenon came from Galen Clark, who was Yosemite's first park ranger in 1867. Clark heard the cries, what he thought perhaps was a dog's, and he asked the Native American tribe, and they told him it definitely wasn't a dog and to not go after it. According to them, an indigenous boy drowned in the lake many years ago, and now he haunts it, calling out to those who pass, and if anyone goes into the water, he'll grab their feet and pull them down into the lake. Hikers for the last century have reported on times this howling, and they say that doesn't sound like a dog or fox or anything that they can pinpoint. The next event happened in 1998 when a backcountry division ranger was patrolling on foot, and he came across a deer head severed that was placed meticulously on the trail. And at first he kind of thought nothing of it, but then in the next 30 minutes of his patrolling, he found 2 more severed heads that were deer heads that were placed meticulously right on the trail. And these were not right next to each other. They were spaced out, you know, whatever, some couple hundred feet and then a mile in between them. So 3 different heads meticulously placed on the trail, and this obviously freaked him out. At this point, he was over 30 minutes away from his patrol vehicle, so he hurried back and also on his way trying to look and see if he saw anybody, but he never did find the culprit, and he went back and buried the skulls and obviously told his department, but they never found the culprit or figured out that mystery. But obviously, to me, you know, it's either just a sick practical joke by a man or something like that. And I can't do this video without talking about Tenaya Canyon. There are so many disappearances and mysterious deaths connected to Tenaya Canyon that it's actually referred to as the Bermuda Triangle of Yosemite. Apparently, according to a local legend, Chief Tenaya cursed the canyon in 1851 after a battle with a white prospector, which unfortunately in that battle he ended up losing his son. The canyon has no foot trail and is notoriously difficult to navigate, particularly in the spring and summer when water levels are high. So, signs are there warning against hiking in the canyon. The American Canyoneering Association gives Tenaya Canyon a rating of 3BV. The 3 is an intermediate rating on a scale of 1 to 4, 4 being the most difficult. B is a measure of the water volume on a scale of A to C, and the V indicates the trip will take 1.5 days. It's just notoriously dangerous, and there's been a crazy amount of deaths and mysterious disappearances there. After the curse of Chief Tenaya reportedly invoked in the 1850s, there's been just innumerable amounts of mysterious deaths and hikers. For example, in 1996, 2 hikers died in the canyon. The hiking the canyon involves dangerous exposure to heights, and even if there's minimal water in Tenaya Creek, mandatory swims, dangerous waterfalls and cascades with wet and slippery glacially polished granite adds to the likelihood of falling. So this is something I'd probably avoid. The last legend or myth, whatever you want to call it, I want to talk about is what they call night crawlers. These were first photographed in 2005 in Fresno, and then again by a trail cam in 2011 just outside of the Yosemite area, and these just appear to be basically like white shadows kind of crawling through the landscape. Several experts have looked through the videos. Some say they are real, some others say that they would be extremely hard to fake, others say it's obviously just a hoax. But then it's interesting to point out that the Native American people of the area say that whatever they are, these creatures have been around for a long time, and they are simply here to help man reconnect with nature and earth. I'll leave a link to the videos in the description with some of the footage that was captured, and apparently they are harmless entities, whatever they are, if they are real. But I'll leave that up to each and every one of you to see what you guys believe. Yosemite has come under fire recently, especially since David Paulides started his whole 411 thing, you know, to put out some kind of a list of missing people, and he's fought with them for years now. And I was able to find one list. It has roughly 30 some odd people on it going back to the 1900s. Obviously it doesn't include everybody, but I wanted to put it in here. It just has their names, the dates they went missing, the last location they were known to be in, and what their intended destination was, or what their thought intended hiking route or camping selection was. And now I'm briefly going to go over some of the missing cases in Yosemite National Park. The first is Peter Jackson. He was reported missing on September 17th, 2016. He was 74 years old at the time, a white male, 5'10", 155 pounds, blue eyes, gray hair, and a beard, as excellent physical condition, carrying a royal blue Outdoor Products day pack. He was only thought to be going out for a day hike. His vehicle was later found near the campground, and his fees were paid up through September 21st, 2016. Jackson's backpack was found in the Ackerson Meadow Aspen Valley area on the west side of Yosemite National Park in August of 2019. No other sign of him has ever been found. George Pinko was hiking with a group when he became separated and went off by himself. He was last seen at about 2:40 p.m. on June 17th, 2011 at the top of Upper Yosemite Falls, and he has not been seen since, and no other trace of him has ever been found. And all these, I'm going to have the phone numbers in their pictures with the tip line if you do have any information to contact. Michael Feisserie was reported to be hiking in the Telltale Valley of Yosemite National Park northeast of H Reservoir, 51 years old when he went missing, and he has not been seen since June 21st, 2005. Ruthanne Rupert was last seen in Curry Village area of Yosemite Medical Clinic on about noon Monday, August 14th, 2000. She was scheduled to go on a backpacking trip in the park but had to postpone due to an infection. She is believed to have gone on a day hike from Yosemite Falls to Foresta area based on what other witnesses reported. Rupert's backpack was found in 2008 in a Fireplace Creek drainage, an area consistent with hiking the route from Yosemite Falls to Foresta. She has not been seen since August 14th, 2000. Walter H. Reinhardt disappeared on September 30th, 2002. He was 66 years old, 5'8", 145 pounds, graying brown hair, becoming thin, no facial hair. Reinhardt's vehicle was found at the White Wolf Trailhead on September 30th, 2002. It's likely he began a hike from the trailhead on or around September 19th, 2002. He hasn't been seen since September 30th, 2002. David Paul Morrison was only 28 years old when he went missing. 5'9", 150 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. He was last seen wearing a gray long-sleeve shirt, black pants, and Nike running shoes. He was last seen in Yosemite Valley at 5:30 a.m. on May 25th, 1988, hiking the Half Dome Trail. Tim Barnes went missing on July 5th, 1988. Barnes was only 25 years old when he went missing. He's a white male, 6 foot 3 inches tall, 180 pounds, dark brown to black hair. Sometimes he wore it parted in the middle. He was seen wearing a t-shirt with a red circle around it with the letter F on it, gray sweatpants, worn white tennis shoes, brown framed sunglasses. He was last seen walking north from the Murphy Creek trailhead at Tinia Lake at 9 a.m. on July 5th, 1988. He was starting a day hike to Polydomes. Dikron Najidiyan went missing on July 24th, 1972. He was only 20 years old when he went missing. He's a white male, Armenian descent, 5'11", 182 pounds, brown eyes, brown hair, last seeing a white metal Omega Seamaster wristwatch and carrying a Pentax 35mm camera. He was last seen in the Curry Village in Yosemite Valley on July 24th, 1972. Kieran Burke disappeared in Yosemite on April 5th, 2000. Burke was 45 years at the time of his disappearance. He's a white male from Ireland, 6 feet tall, 180 pounds, thinning black hair with blue eyes. Burke was last seen in the Curry Village area of Yosemite Valley at about 10 a.m. on April 5th, 2000. He was believed to have been planning and preparing to start a hike, and no one's ever seen him since. My thoughts go out to all the friends and families of these people and people themselves, and hopefully that these families one day might be able to solve their cases. And if you do have any information, like I said, please use the phone numbers listed for each individual, and of course please be respectful in the comments if you choose to leave them. Obviously, these are just a few of the cases. I know there's some that I didn't mention, like the Stacey Aris case, and that's just because that case got so much attention. It's been covered so many times, and the video would be hours long if I covered them all. Obviously, Yosemite is a beautiful place. There's lots of things to do there, beautiful waterfalls, spectacular views, lots of things to see, a myriad of different hiking trails and campgrounds, the meadow, like I said, the John Muir Trail and the PCT run through it. So it is a wonderful place to go and visit. But when you start doing things that could put you in danger, like hanging off the side of a cliff or anything where you're putting yourself in deliberate possible danger, whether it's hanging off the side of a cliff trying to get a perfect selfie or jumping into a raging river just to impress a friend or a girl or whatever, in my opinion, it's just not worth it. Just use your best judgment and be safe out there, guys. Have a plan, tell people where you're going to be, make sure you know what you're up against, know how the trails are and that kind of thing. I mean, despite the things that are mentioned in this video, yeah, there are a lot of disappearances and there are a lot of tragedies, but the park can also offer a lot of wonderful times too. Camping, hiking, just be safe about it and be smart about it. If you're going out solo, especially, carry a Garmin device, especially if you're going to be out for multiple days. Tell several people where you're going to be and your planned route, that kind of thing. Have check-in points. In any event, I really hope you guys liked this video. I really appreciate you watching. I know it's kind of long. Thank you very much for sticking with me till the end, and please let me know if you have any questions or feedback, and I will see you in the next one. Oh, and please like and subscribe if you like this content. Thank you so much. I want to dedicate this video to all those who have either lost their lives or their way in Yosemite National Park. My thoughts and prayers go out to you and your families.